So it's been over 3 years since I posted my very first video on this channel, and the hardcore fans and maybe even people who occasionally watch my videos, you might have scrolled down to see what my oldest video was and thought, why the hell is this a League of Legends game with friends and he's playing as Urgot? And funny thing about that, at the time, he was the universally accepted worst champion in the game. And the reason that was my first video is I originally wanted this channel to be based on League of Legends content. But long story short, things changed. And if this isn't your cup of tea act man video, totally fine. But just know that League of Legends was, and still is, a huge passion of mine. I mean, I've gotten countless hours of entertainment out of a game I haven't spent a dime on, except the hundreds of dollars I spent on skins. And I want to preface this whole video by saying that I think Riot is a fantastic company, for the most part. They're not perfect, but the way they interact with fans, the jokes they write into every patch, how they highlight community-made content, the culture they've built around League of Legends is simply phenomenal, despite some of the negative aspects of it and the general toxicity surrounding MOBA games. They communicate, they're transparent. What I'm trying to say is I love Riot as a company and think most everyone working there is super talented and passionate about the game, and that they seem to be putting more work into it than ever before. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, because there's something that's been bugging me about League of Legends. A game I've loved and played for 6 years. And don't get me wrong, in this video it's gonna sound like I'm hating on the game and on Riot. But this is the truth right here. Everything I'm going to say, I'm saying because I love the game and I need to be honest, alright? So, what happened to League of Legends? Well, there are many things that have happened to the game since its full release back in 2009. God damn, that is a long time in video game years. And I'll talk about the big changes in a bit. But what happened to League of Legends is something that was there all along. Something I just didn't notice until it became extremely obvious. One of the biggest reasons for League's constant success, and one of my biggest problems with it, is Riot's philosophy on change.
Changes.
With these changes, we hope some of the biggest barriers to finding the fun in League will be fixed.
Gay! Now, I first started playing the game back in 2012 when Lulu came out, because I remember seeing her on the login screen. After playing my first 20, 30, 40, 50 games, I started to understand the basics of each champion, the items, masteries, etc. At the time, whenever things changed, I imagined it was all part of balancing, improving the game so eventually it would be the way that Riot had always envisioned it. I thought, they probably didn't expect the game to do as well as it did, to become so popular, and thus a lot of things were just unbalanced or poorly optimized, whatever.
Victory!
You know, I had played old school Dota back on Warcraft 3 a buttload, so this concept of continuous updates wasn't new to me. I had the preconceived notion that Riot had an endpoint that they were trying to get to. Looking back, I was completely wrong. There is no finish line. League of Legends is and always will be in a perpetual state of development.
There's risk to change too. There are bad things that we can do if we change the game too much.
And we're not talking minor adjustments to the weapons in a first-person shooter or balancing units in a real-time strategy game. We're talking pages upon pages of patch notes, new champions, new items, tweaked numbers, updated runes, new masteries, remove this, remove that, bring back this, rework that. It is an endless cycle. And after 5 years of constantly staying up to date with everything, because I was a competitive player, it just became such a huge investment of my time. And this is just to understand what the fuck is in the game. This endless cycle means that inevitably there's gonna be something new that's added that breaks the game in some form or another. A busted combo here, a broken item there. So there's almost never been a point where League has truly been balanced. What's worse is the meta, and what is considered viable changes with every patch. Entire play styles can become unviable or unplayable after a single update, meaning players have to adapt. This is all a double-edged sword, because on the one hand it keeps the game fresh, but on the other, people have been playing certain ways for years, and so you take that away from them. You know, when I started playing, there was 96 different champions, each with 5 different abilities, and it takes a lot of time to learn what each one of them does. Now we're at 134, and it's like, at what point is there enough variety in champions, in their abilities? At what point does it become too much for the casual player to want to know and understand the game? I'm not saying change is bad.
Change is good.
Yes, it is my squishy little assassin bug. It has kept me coming back. It has kept the game fresh. I'm just saying at some point in time, I wanted League of Legends to settle down somewhere, find its place, you know? Here's another thing to think about. As the game evolved, I always had this thought in my mind. Hey, this one thing is pretty broken / overpowered, but they're constantly updating the game, so they'll fix it in time. And I kept saying that to myself for 5 years. Nidalee Spears, AP Master Yi, AP Rengar, LeBlanc when she had a silence, Atmogs, Black Cleaver stacking, Feral Flare, Stopwatch meta, the list is endless. And I've been through it all. League is not meant to be balanced. It is not ever meant to be finished. It is now a continuous stream of revenue which forces the company to create new champions and skins regardless of the consequences it has on the overall game. Change for the sake of change. And money.
Now, that's not to say that every change we make is out there to solve a problem. We do make some changes that are just to add freshness.
You can see this in how they decide to release their skins. Yorick was notorious because he had a 5-year span without a single new skin. From the time he launched up until his rework, he did not get a new skin. Same thing with Urgot. Why? Because they weren't popular champions. So now new cosmetic content is made for champions that will guarantee a good return in dollars. These are what I call priority skins and champions. It's why Twisted Fate has 9 skins. It's why Katarina has 10, because they've always been popular. And if it's a popular champion, then the skin will sell. And we all understand it's a business, you know, a free-to-play game has to make money somehow, I get that. And this is the point. Riot's philosophy on constant change and new champions means that inevitably, some just get left in the dust for years and years. I just think every champion should receive a somewhat equal amount of attention and love, regardless of how many people play them, so that nobody is left behind. Overall, I think League of Legends is in a much better place than most of the time I had spent playing it. They fixed Kassadin's godforsaken mobility, they fixed Nidalee's ridiculous poke damage, and eventually they created a champion with the exact same cancerous playstyle that old Nidalee had. And in the wise words of Tyler 1,
Right, you're such a shit company, dude! Like, how can you get paid to balance the game when there's champions like this? They get paid to fucking balance the game. All these retards do is balance the fucking game. That's it. How is Zoe still the same?
The reason League of Legends has bothered me so much in the last 2 years especially is because I've been waiting years to be able to consider it a balanced game. The more and more things they add, it becomes increasingly difficult to manage, to adjust the game around those elements, to memorize them as a player, to balance them, and just have fun. For every rework Riot gets right, they fuck up another. Now this is all 100% just my opinion, and I really started to question what Riot was doing when they reworked Gangplank. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I was the type of player who loved playing what most people considered shit champions or troll picks, because I didn't want to be just another guy who stuck to the meta. I wanted to be unique. I played League first and foremost for fun, and found out that many of the champions people thought were shit were actually incredibly fun when played well. And it made it way more satisfying when you kicked ass because everyone thought you were trolling. Okay, so Gangplank's kit wasn't perfect, or all that fleshed out, but the voice.
Yo ho ho, and a bottle of rum.
They have no concept of misery.
They took this incredible, jolly, gung-ho pirate character and turned him into an emo. Why?
The reality was that he was largely forgotten, and he just really wasn't played that much, and like, that's not really a good thing.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Like, imagine if they reworked Mundo, and his voice went from
Mundo smash
to I am Mundo, and I'll have my revenge. You'd be sitting there like, bro, that ain't fucking Mundo. What the hell? So even if you think the new voice is good, imagine yourself as someone who mained Gangplank, played 100 or more games with him, got attached to that character. Imagine the disconnect that person now feels with what might have been their favorite champion, their favorite part of the game. While you personally may not relate to the players who are upset over whichever rework it might be, just put yourself in their shoes. Imagine it was your favorite champion who just completely changed and wasn't the thing you enjoyed anymore. Keep this in mind because it's going to be a recurring concept.
Everybody would be a little bit nervous hearing that like a champion that they really like to play is getting like a massive update.
You don't say. You don't say. You don't say!
They did the same thing to Maokai for reasons I can't even imagine. Again, I played Maokai a modest amount, and when they reworked his abilities to scale better, tweaked his ultimate, he was in a really good place. But now his ultimate to me looks like Nami's. His voice sounds awful in comparison to what it was.
Do you want to see twisted? Torment me no longer. Torment at your peril. Where men fall, saplings rise.
Like, you got all the trees and bark and shit moving, it sounds evil, epic. Maokai's not the same, and I don't play him anymore because of it. Same thing with Galio. His rework really pissed me off because his kit was totally fine. It really fit the theme of a gargoyle, and his ultimate was one of the biggest game changers if you hit it right. He wasn't broken, you could counter his ultimate pretty easily with one item, and he was a lot of fun to play. He could be a powerhouse, played into the right composition. And I think Riot reworked him because he wasn't played all that much.
The reality was that he was largely forgotten.
He just really wasn't played that much, and like, that's not really a good thing.
To me, Galio was not a champion you mained. He wasn't someone you played every game, but could be the best pocket pick against an AP-heavy team. But now he's just some kind of generic gargoyle. I haven't bothered to play him much. Taric 2 had a rework and the same thing happened. They didn't just change his kit, but changed his identity, and I don't play him anymore. These are just examples of champions I used to play, and what I'm trying to get across is how when they change so much, I lose the desire to keep playing them, and I lose more and more desire to play League. And then they did a slight rework to Cho'Gath, so they took an already powerful, good, great kit and made it broken for some reason, allowing his ultimate HP bonus to stack indefinitely, and he loses nothing upon death?
Why?
Why is that a thing? I thought the whole point of Cho'Gath was the risk-reward of getting stacks, but being afraid to lose them. You gain size and HP, but if you're killed, you lose half of what you had. There's risk to it. Now you see a Cho'Gath get plus 2,000 extra HP from his ultimate 30 minutes in, and you're just like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Then they made his ult scale with HP, so you got Gargoyle's Stoneplate, and his ultimate is true damage, like 1,800 true damage with one click? Yeah, because that's balanced. And this is what I'm saying, they introduce broken new mechanics and then don't fix them until later, and that's a recurring pattern. You could get Locket of the Iron Solari, you'd hit 5k HP, doubled with Gargoyle Stoneplate, and your team has a 3k HP shield. See, I actually like Cho'Gath, but I won't play him anymore because I legit don't feel like I'm good when I can walk up to someone and kill them when they're at full HP with one click. In my opinion, it's not fun to do well in League of Legends with something that is unfair and broken. I don't enjoy that. Then you've got champions like Ryze, who Riot just can't seem to get right. His initial set of spells was pretty brain dead, but how the hell do you rework a champion and give him the ability to permanently root enemies?
What the fuck was that?
How do you fuck that up? How do you go through testing and not realize you've created something completely broken? Ryze has been reworked so many times, and I can't imagine how Ryze mains must feel about him. The issue with some of the champion reworks I listed is that Riot will sometimes completely change the identity and feel of a character people have been playing for years, and it can be heartbreaking because people love this game and these champions and these characters so much. So moments like these? You go in first. No, I will.
Yeah. I just sounded so quiet.
Or memories such as these?
No, where's the red? Where's the red? No!
Mr. Crablegs himself. Mr. Crablegs himself.
Are just that. Memories. Because I can never play these champions the way I used to ever again. That part of the game is forever lost. And then they had finally reworked Urgot, my baby, my homie, dude, my go-to. And even though what they did to him was fantastic and he needed it, not gonna lie, this killed some of my drive to keep playing the game, because the Urgot I knew was gone and would never return, and I was left with only my old clips and games to remind me of what I once had. All these reworks lead to a main problem with League. It's become streamlined. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's an old quote on a forum somewhere from a Riot employee when talking about changes in the meta. If this sounds familiar, just let me know, cause I've only heard about it but haven't seen it. But basically, it was how Riot never intended to force a meta, because they wanted players to figure out what worked on their own. You know, players would realize that tanky sustain type champions worked well in the top lane. AP mages were good in mid, mobile damage dealers with some crowd control were great for the jungle, and ranged AD champions were most effective in bot lane with someone to support them. This ideology led to some really creative strategies and setups. Some were viable, others weren't. For many years you could play what was highly considered unviable and still have success. I did that and got to Diamond, alright? It can be done. But this has changed tremendously in recent years, especially after Riot's biggest change to the runes and masteries. I never saw anything wrong with this system, and while the new one is still good, it feels so streamlined, as if Riot themselves have been trying to eliminate unusual strategies and picks. The issues of the new rune system arise because every champion now needs to have some sort of interaction or synergy with the runes, and it's inevitable that certain champions will benefit off them better than others. The stats from the old runes were just a way for players to cover up their weaknesses or play to their strengths, while the masteries added more strategic elements. You had near complete freedom in what you optimized in. My point is, the old system had way more options. It wasn't that complicated. It was modular and could breathe life into otherwise unviable picks and strategies. If you want an example of how League is becoming streamlined, with certain champions more or less forced into particular roles, I can think of no better example than Alistar.
You can't milk those.
Again, one of my favorites. Most people would play him as a support, and he works well in that role. However, in the early seasons, it was entirely possible to jungle with him. Hell, I used to play Alistar top in Platinum and Diamond ranked games. It wasn't meta, it wasn't exactly viable, but it had its perks, and with the right runes and masteries, you could make it work. Unfortunately, Alistar top in jungle is basically never seen anymore. I still play him top, but his reworks and the changes to the runes have pretty much exclusively forced him into the support role. You can see this streamlining in how newer champions and reworks are handled. Taric too is exclusively a support now because the usefulness of his abilities is largely dependent on having other allies near you. You used to be able to play just about anything in any lane, and Taric top was something I legit used to play. But bringing him top lane nowadays is just a death wish. He can't be played well up there. The problem is Riot streamlines the game in ways that make it more boring and overcomplicates it in ways that are just confusing. For example, at some point they changed armor penetration to lethality, and I don't even know what the difference is. Armor penetration is simple, you pierce through that amount of armor, but when they changed it to lethality, it still says armor penetration in parentheses? Like what's the point? Just have it say armor penetration. Now let's just take a look at how passives have changed in newer champions. Alright, we got Kled here. Kled is accompanied by his semi-trusty mount, Skarl. Depending on whether Kled is mounted or dismounted from Skarl, his set of abilities is altered. Mounted, innate. Kled's health cannot be improved except through growth. Instead, Skarl has 400 to 1420 based on level plus 100% bonus health, maximum health, and while together all damage dealt to the duel. Kled is accompanied by his semi-trusty mount, Skarl, depending on whether Kled is mounted or dismounted.
Shut the fuck up! Do you know what shut the fuck up mean?
You have 3 passives in one. Look at this fucking box of text. This is a page. And then you look at a champion like Jace. Gain bonus movement speed when you press R. Okay, I know what that does in just 2 seconds. And now I'm looking at Echo's page, and apparently his W has a passive that makes him deal bonus damage based on missing health. See, I didn't even know that. He's been out for 2 years. Yeah, you could say that's my fault for not paying attention, but god damn. There's so many unnecessary mechanics, passives, and all this shit in some of the newer champions that makes it incredibly difficult to memorize. Riot's early champion designs were simplistic, easy to understand even if you didn't play them, but always hard to master. When you got 139 different champions, each with 5 different abilities, some with 4 separate passives, it's important that I can just look at this shit and understand what I'm playing against from a glance. And it's like, nah, you gotta look them up online to see exactly what they do now. Then somewhere along the line, Riot thought that influence points were too complicated or something, so they added all these keys, chests, blue essence, puzzle pieces, shards, mastery tokens, all this shit, and I don't even care to figure out how it all works. The streamlining of champions, putting them into specific roles that have labels, and overcomplicating the game in other areas made League into something much more difficult to grasp, even for an experienced player like myself. 5 years under my belt, man.
League is a game about mastery and getting better at the game. And that can be really frustrating when you feel like the developers are just out there kind of shaking the table all the time. It's like, why bother investing time to get better when Riot's just going to change things anyway?
But for me personally, the last straw, the thing that damn near killed my desire to play this game ever again, was the removal of Dominion.
The Crystal Scar is weeping.
Okay, I hear you. Nobody played Dominion Act, man. Dominion was shit. There was like 2 people on it. Who cares? Who cares about it? You just shut up and listen, boy. At my peak, man, I was playing League a shit ton, anywhere from 2 to 9 games a day. I climbed a Diamond 4, but the day I truly began to stop caring about my rank, my skills, and this game was when Riot took out Dominion. Once again, if you didn't like Dominion, if you never played it, if you thought it was trash, let me just say that there were people that did enjoy it. There was a population. And yeah, they've got all random, all middle, they've got a rotating game mode, but it's not Dominion. It's not Dominion. It was the perfect thing to play when you didn't have a guaranteed hour for a full match. It took more skill to succeed in Dominion than it does in ARAM. ARAM is a lot of luck. Dominion, you can pick your champion and go in all sorts of crazy builds. Bro, I would fucking get some pre-workout ready, I'd stir that shit up, drink it as the game went on because I knew it wouldn't be longer than 25 minutes, play some stupid ass build because you could, there was basically no laning phase, and I would just get so into Dominion before I went to work out. And it's like that whole ritual I had was taken from me. I understand, it might have been for the best. Riot had their reasons, and I'm not dismissing those. All I'm saying is, it didn't have to be this way. Riot could have tried to make it work. They basically launched the mode and then barely touched it afterwards. This is what has been happening to League of Legends for many years. The The champions, the items, the game modes, all these different pieces of why people play the game have been systematically changed, altered, or removed entirely. And it's not the same game.
The more the game changes, the harder it is for someone who's taken a break to come back to League. We know that dramatic changes can have a huge impact on players who have spent, hundreds of hours perfecting certain plays or strategies, and we try to be very sensitive to that.
I just want everyone watching to understand that some people did play it. They loved it. I remember there was a guy with the username CoolDominion who would always play Warwick, and I checked his profile once. I would see him all the time, and if I remember correctly, he had like 6,000 games of Dominion. Now, how do you think he felt when it was removed? We all get tired of the long games or don't have time for them, and ever since Dominion was removed, that fast-paced action and intensity hasn't been replaced by anything.
You shall be crushed.
It's a difficult thing to describe what has happened to League of Legends, this game we've invested so much time and effort into. This may not have been the most comprehensive analysis. This is just the opinion of an acting male. League of Legends has had a lot of good changes over the years, and I'm not knocking on the positive things Riot has done. It's their game, it's free to play, so it's always something I can go back to. But I've just realized this. It's not that I've gotten bored of the game, I've gotten bored of change. It's so tiring now to try and keep up with all the massive overhauls, reworks, new items, masteries, 15-page patch notes, and so on. The game has lost that simplistic, easy-to-grasp charm it used to have. I've lost passion for League after Gangplank, Taric, Galio, Urgot, Maokai, Alistair, and so many others have been changed into something I no longer want to play. And it's sad because the game, to me, will never be as fun, unique, or engaging as it was. And the reason for that is because League of Legends had to change.
Beta man.
Yo. Oh are you kidding me? I earned that, you son of a bitch. You gotta be shitting me. I'm playing Taric top, give me some fucking slack.